Welcome to Curate Your Career, a museum career podcast about staying, leaving, and everything in between. I'm Elin Philby, museum educator turned career coach.
And I'm Alli, career coach specifically for museum professionals. And we're here to talk about all the messy, exciting, and sometimes confusing parts of working in museums.
Each week, we'll share stories, real advice, and quick wins to help you figure out your next move, whether that's staying, leaving, or just making your current job work better for you.
So let's dive in, because if there's one thing museum professionals are great at, it's overthinking. We're here to help you think smarter, not spiral. So take a breath and let's get started.
So, Alli, I wanted to start this episode with a sound clip, but the rights are too expensive. So I'm just going to start in with, should I stay or should I go now? Yeah. Also always reminds me of Stranger Things now.
Oh, I love that. That is true. Yes, I am a Stranger Things fan.
I know. I'm so excited.
So I have been awaiting the final season.
I know. Same.
So well, just like Stranger Things, we are starting our season. With this podcast.
Yes. But yeah, so that was my corny intro for this episode, which is, should I stay or should I go? One of the top questions that we both get asked by museum professionals, right? And it's for good reason. Our museum careers are built on passion that is also so deeply tied to our identity, like we talked about in the last episode. You spent a lot of time and money to further your education. You've done lots of unpaid internships or contract gigs until you landed that coveted full-time role, or maybe you're still working for that full-time role, and you are used to being the coolest person at the dinner party.
And this is a field, as I often say, again, that runs on passion and dedication. And unfortunately, those things can be easily exploited, but it also means that we're incredibly resourceful as museum professionals working within limited budgets, limited resources, limited all sorts of things. So everything. Having flashbacks to small museum life.
Yes.
And so I also see folks who are willing to get creative, explore options, build new skills, network, and carve out a path that works for them. So potentially a career shift or just a career mindset shift doesn't have to be as daunting as it feels. So we're hopefully help you cut through some of the noise of figuring things out.
Yep. So today's episode, we are going to decide, should I stay or should I go now?
No.
And I promise that'll be the last time you have to hear me sing that. I'm really sorry. And I think, too, this big question, or this big part, too, of do you have to choose either or? All right.
So we are going to lay out some strategies to help you decide the next steps in your career journey. And Elin and I, too, as career coaches, we actually have some clients that work with both of us as they're figuring this out, which I really love. And I'm a big advocate for that. I think having options, especially within the current job market and just the world as it is, it's really good to have options. And this is something that Elin and I are both really passionate about and excited to walk you through this. So, all right, first step, I think that is really important, and I make a lot of my clients do, is a career check-in. And even if you're not even at this decision point, maybe you're just listening in, this is still something that you should really do. You can figure out how often you want to do a check-in. If you're going through some really tough things, maybe it's every week. If you're just someone that is, hey, I don't know, maybe I'll look for some roles, maybe I'll figure out some things, maybe you do it quarterly or yearly. So just figure out a time frame and put it in your calendar of when you want to do, hey, today I'm going to do a little check-in. And it's just asking yourself some questions such as, hey, where am I at right now? Do I like it? Has anything changed? What do I need? Just thinking through what's going on, because sometimes we just don't take that time. And that's for a whole variety of reasons. We have competing things going on. Working in a museum can feel really frantic. And so just taking a few moments to do this can mean a little bit of a difference. So just schedule a check-in with yourself and put it on your calendar and actually stick to it. And in addition to this, I think having an understanding of your boundaries and your goals. So I actually, because, educator background, I love a good worksheet. So a lot of my coaching is based around all these like bespoke worksheets that I create. And so one of the first things I actually have my clients fill out is I call it an ideal job worksheet, but really it just kind of makes you think through what you're really looking for out of a job. And it could be in a museum, it could be out of a museum. And that's some things, sometimes that's what some of my clients find out is like, you know what? My ideal job might not be found in a museum or my ideal pay might not be found here. And it walks them through things just as simple as what do you want to get paid? Which is very key. That's one of the most important
Yes.
things.
Yes.
So, like, knowing your worth, honestly, as you know, and also, like, what do you want your office space to look like or where you work? Who are the people you want to work with? How does that space make you feel? Are really important questions to ask yourself to get really keen on what you want out of a job in your career. And it's going to change, right? What I wanted out of my career 10 years ago is totally different than what I wanted now. And this can change even within a month, 6 months to a year. So that's why I'm like, check in with yourself regularly and schedule that time to do that. And having a clear understanding of boundaries. So what is for you, Elin? I'm sorry I'm putting you on the spot, but like, what is a workplace boundary that you either had when you were working in a museum or just currently in your job that you have to regulate for
Yeah.
yourself?
Yeah. I mean, and when I was transitioning out of the field, my last job in the field had a really toxic board dynamic, and I'm like trying not to like poop on my last organization, but it was I would be getting texts and emails and stuff at like 10 o'clock at night from board members. And I was like, wherever I go next, like I just want to show up, do my job, and go home at the end of the day. Like I don't want to be responsible or have to answer to anybody after working hours. So,
I
yeah.
will say that is like across the board because I have all these museum pros fill out this
Yes.
worksheet and they send it back to me. I will say like 9 to 5 or just like boundaries after work hours and like being able to have a life outside work is like a top thing. So employers,
Yeah.
if you're listening, remember, don't
Yes.
overtax your employees.
Yes.
But
And if
yeah,
you're new to the museum field, do not give your personal phone number to people that you don't want contacting you outside of business hours.
have a burner phone.
Yeah, right? We did. We did
No, stop.
actually. Yes. Well, because and we called it that. We called it the burner. And then we would like take turns who had it. But for a while, my old ED, he had the organization's phone routed to his personal cell phone and it was just always ringing. And I'm like, Ben, stop. So get a burner phone or like, yeah, just don't give out your personal number to people.
Yes. No, that's so important. So yeah, that's definitely, a boundary a lot of us holds. Also, things like weekend work. Now I worked in public programs, but I just wanted a little bit of a balance. I would say that was like one of my boundaries was just
Yeah.
like wanted a little more of a balance of that because yeah, all my public program education people out there, you're working evenings, weekends, all sorts of random hours. So just a little more balance there would have been great.
Yes.
Emotional labor is something else, unrealistic workloads, after hours contacting, all things like that. So really think through, what are you basically your non-negotiables? And also, are there any boundaries that like temporarily you can compromise on and why? I don't think we all need to be like so boxed in, but I think, are there some things you can be a little bit flexible on? Like, and if so, like, when is the circumstance? Because if you give an organization an inch, they're going to take it and exploit all of it. Just again, having very clear understanding of these things is really helpful. And then also, like, what support systems do I need to do my best work? So, like, when you're in an environment, what things will help you? And one day I will tell you about an ideal job that I thought was my ideal job and then realized what an actual like ideal workplace was for me and what that looked like and felt like. So,
Yes.
having, for example, for me, like having a place that respects my ideas as a creative person and gives me the space to do that and take risks was so important. Thinking through what those systems look like.
Hmm. And sometimes you don't know until you know, right? Like, did you get into that next job and you were like, whoa.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember I was like maybe like month 2 in on the job and I was like, "Oh." even though this place isn't a subject matter, right? We get really attracted to the subject matter of a museum. So this is always my lesson, right? There's, another field was like something I'd studied for a while and just wasn't the right workplace dynamic for me and like in supportive environment. And then I got to this place, which was a whole different subject matter than I really knew a lot about. But I just had a really supportive board and boss, which is rare in this field,
Yes.
that really just let me be myself and shine. And I realized at that point, this is, 11 years, 10 years, actually less. This was, 8 years into the field. And I was like, this is actually what I need um, out of a museum job or just a job in general. So speaking of pain,
Pain.
pain
Yes.
points.
Pain points. So, after you've done what Ali suggested of that check-in, then getting clear about what are your pain points. So getting honest with yourself and asking what is working and what is not working and why not. That why not is a really important question to follow up with yourself on, because it gets down to your values, right? What values are not being in alignment here? What values are being betrayed here? Betrayed is such a strong word, but you know what I mean? Like, why is this not feeling right to me? And that is such a key part here that I want to encourage you to do when you're asking yourself these questions. So, are the problems the tasks, the people, the structure, the values of the organization, the capacity of your role in the organization? I was a one-woman education department for a really long time, and we were growing exponentially and doing all these cool programs. And it was at that time in my life, it was not a deal breaker because I found it invigorating and exciting and engaging. But now at this phase of my life, that would be a total deal breaker for me because it's not in alignment with how I want my life to look at this time. So getting this clarity helps to prevent those impulsive decisions like Ali was talking about, that panic pivoting of I feel like so many times people are just like, F it. I'm like, like I'm out. I'm quitting tomorrow or I'm quitting right now, right? Like, don't rage quit. Don't panic quit. Like, you want to be strategic about this so that you can set yourself up for success in what comes next. And I think sometimes too, this can help you design an off ramp to upskill or to kind of shift things around so that you could be successful with what comes next. So before you rage quit, before you say F it, is it possible to find a solution within your current job? So could you, and you can't know what to fix until you know what's broken. So getting clear about what's broken and why so that you can help to find solutions to those issues. So is it a growth thing? Is there an opportunity for you to grow, whether in role or responsibility within your organization? Is there a way to bring on an intern to delegate some of the work so that then you could also gain supervising experience, which is huge whenever you're trying to go anywhere in any field? Could you find a mentor in the staff, volunteers, boards, depending on your organization, that can help you gain some perspective and context around what's going on, can help to guide you and coach you through those sticky parts? There are also lots of great museum leadership coaches that do offer these kinds of services too. So looking out for somebody, maybe if there's not somebody within your org, is there somebody that can help you with that skill set in another way? And then is your museum willing to support your professional development? Could you go to a conference, which, Ali and I love conferences. I don't know about you, but I would always come back from a conference feeling so fired up and ready to go and gonna take on the world. Always so excited. So maybe that is a boost that you need right now to make things better. Is it professional development? Is it, what is it that could make things better for you?
And I'll even add to that something that you just triggered is as well as a lot of museum boards have committees, and sometimes they're looking for people to chair those committees. Now, again, this is perfect world board. I know that there are a lot of dynamics that we acknowledge all these, the problematic aspects that can exist within museums, but certainly either being on a committee or even leading a committee,
Mhm.
if that is available to you, that can be another, again, adding to your management, leadership, all sorts of experience, especially if you're like, hey, I want to grow in this area. Oh my gosh, those are all such great things to think about. and just taking it a step further. So like we're starting, like I'm thinking of like circles, right? So like starting small with like what is available to you immediately and then expanding
Mhm.
out. So like, okay. So again, before we make the jump, what are solutions just within the field? So again, are there other places of employment? So are there other places that potentially you could find yourself shifting through? Are you willing to move? I know that option isn't available to everybody, but sometimes moving to a new location might provide some new opportunities, especially just knowing again, where museums are clustered, but also where they can be super competitive. And sometimes that might be, there'll be probably like threads of networking within all of these different things that I'm going to tell you. But again, sometimes it might just be asking within your network, within people in the area, what are some options out here? And like, can you keep your eye out for things for me? Things like that. And I'm working on this. Sorry to plug this a little bit, but I've been thinking a lot about because people ask this all the time. What are some professional development opportunities in the field? So that don't have to be expensive. That's always my thing. I'm like, what can we do that's free or low cost?
Yes.
Certainly there's the sliding scale, right? Of course, you can go and again, we'll talk about, should I get a degree? And I think naturally for some people, the impetus is to go and get a degree, get more education, but that
Yeah.
you don't necessarily have to jump to that. That might not actually be the best decision. It might be that, hey, maybe I need to develop more skills in collections management, and maybe I take a course on TMS software or things like that. I think there are resources out there. There are people out there. I think we forget there's support systems built into the field. Emerging museum professionals, the national group also is just a wonderful place to ask, even if you're not an emerging museum professional anymore. So there are lots of things around you that you just have to kind of look out for. And of course, Elin and I are really good resources as well for these things. So
Yeah. I think too, Ellie, one more quick note
Mhm.
about courses and stuff is one of my favorite pro tips. Your local library probably can give you a free access to LinkedIn Learning.
Ooh, I
There
love
are
that.
a million courses on LinkedIn Learning. Check out your local library, see if they can get you hooked up with a LinkedIn Learning account so you get it for free. Yay,
And
libraries.
yes, yes, Elon's gonna talk about sort of skill building and going in a deeper dive within that. And then, again, after you've kind of done all this sort of self-assessment and really thinking about things within the fields, what is working? This is what often gets overlooked, where we tend to focus on the negative. We love to leave negative reviews, not positive
Mhm.
reviews. This is not to brush over problematic places, toxic places, and things like that. So again, just being very clear that I understand that there are some circumstances that are just beyond the positive sides. But if you can really ask yourself some of these questions, and this just requires sitting and thinking through things. So, what can you leverage to make things better? Is there anything in your control or through asking someone that potentially could change? You can make some change. Think about what parts of your job energize you. I actually did this exercise when unintentionally, I'm just remembering now, before I was going to leave my small museum job and do the career coaching as I was kind of deciding through things because and I think my boss too, we were both in a little bit of a burnout state. And so as we all are in this field. So it's hard to
Gotcha.
see like what actually energizes us. And we realized at a certain point we're like, wow, we are out of balance in terms of like the things that energize us versus the things that are depleting our energy. And so we're like, how do we get this balance back? How do we add more within reason of the things that energize us? And then remembering, like, okay, within that, like relationships that you genuinely enjoy, are there tasks that you like to do over others? And, how can you rearrange things? How can you rearrange your schedule, rearrange priorities, talk with a manager about this? Because again, for a place should want to keep you on. So they should want to work with you to make sure that you don't leave if you don't need to. So it can become more clear staying if you look at more of what you want more of, not just that you're trying to escape. Maybe we should just rename this episode Before You Rage Quit. Listen to this.
Actually, I think if you are listening to this, we will probably change this episode name. Yeah. Before you rage quit.
Wait, sit, pause, listen to this.
Yes.
And if you feel like you still need to rage quit after this, feel free. But But again, okay, as we continue, this seems like a lot of work, but we promise this is also going to help you with lots of other areas too. Thinking
Mhm.
through these things, not just staying or leaving. So, Elin is like transferable skill queen, as I always say. So, she's going to walk you through taking an inventory or thinking through of what that looks like.
So the skills inventory slash wish list. So if you are thinking about, okay, maybe I am going to go, like how is that going to look? And something that we all sit with is like, well, what am I going to do besides museums? This is all I've done. And one of my favorite things to do with clients, and I did it with myself when I was when I was exploring leaving the field, asking yourself these 3 questions. And you will be so sick of me saying this by the time we're done with this podcast or whatever. What do I like doing? What do I hate doing? And what do I wish I could do more of? Those 3 questions, they tie into with Allie's self-assessment too. Like where are you getting energy? Where is energy draining you? And where is this, like for me, like the smallest part of my job was the career coaching our interns. And I turned that into the biggest part of my next job. I was able to make that flip because I was like, I love doing this. I want to do more of this. So these questions can illuminate a lot of things. They can help us figure out, like, okay, where can I grow within a museum? Are there potential pivots outside the museum? Where are your skills that the things you want to do more of? Like where can you build these skills through short-term experiences like courses or maybe some sort of like workshop or something like that? And then recognizing where your burnout is coming from misalignment, not a lack of talent. So I mean, I hate paperwork. Yeah. And it's like that, and that's generally where the burnout or this fatigue comes from, is because something is not aligned with your skills or your desires, right? And that's why they feel hard and that's why you don't feel like you're good at them. I can do paperwork if I have to do paperwork, but when I was doing invoicing for weddings at my last institution, I always messed it up because I hated doing it and I was just not good. Like it was not what I wanted to be spending my time doing. So looking for those places of misalignment where things are just not lining up for you with your values.
Can
So
I insert
yeah.
something just real quick?
Yes. Always.
I saw this post on LinkedIn, and I'm sorry, I do not remember who posted it, like the real core components of it, but it was something that sometimes it is worth, as an organization, investing in systems that make your employees' jobs much easier, right? So, like, maybe there was a better, like, onboarding process, or, like, maybe there's a better system of, working through this wedding paperwork or other things
Mhm.
that, while it's like the organization always sees dollar bills, but it's like the amount of time that that staff person or multiple staff puts into doing said thing is worth the investment. Yeah, I know it's a mindset shift for a lot of
Mhm.
boards and organizations, but just planting that out there, that when you add up the hours that you are spending on a task that is A, draining you, and B, just like
Mhm.
adding to your workload in ways that it
Yes.
doesn't need to, taking you away from
Yes.
other things. Anyway, just wanted to share that. I saw that and I was like, "Oh, I feel that so much."
100%. And I think it's comes back to advocating for yourself. And like, if I can take the 3 hours a week that I am spending on wedding invoices and instead turn them into public programs that are revenue generating, like you're going to save money. And it's about how you phrase it too when you're advocating for yourself. What are the priorities of your board, of your ED, of your supervisor? How can you speak to their priorities and why you need these shifts and systems and changes? So yeah, that is Ellie, that's such a huge
Thanks
point,
for
and
letting
I
me go
think,
on a tangent.
my god, of course, we're the queens of tangents, but it it's that self-advocacy and understanding you're not gonna know that a system is gonna be what helps you and helps you reduce that burnout, helps you become happier in your organization if you don't sit down for a second and think what's going right here and what's not, right? So it all comes back to that reflection and then advocacy for yourself. So, yeah, so a lot of times too people are asking like, well, if I leave, what if I want to come back? And we're going to dive into that and here, right? I think sometimes you don't have to pick one path or the other, right? You can be doing these things concurrently. What does the and look like? Yes, and, right? That famous improv philosophy, you can do both. You can apply for both museum and non-museum jobs. Now, a caveat here, you need different materials for each of those. The resumes that Allie makes for her clients look way different than the ones that I make for my clients, right? And if you do work for both with both of us, you'll see that. And also too, Allie, side note, also, I love when people are like, I don't know, like if I can tell you, but like I'm also working with Allie. And people are always like worried to tell me that, which I always think is so funny. I'm like, Allie and I are good friends. Like that's cool. I'm glad you're working with both of us because you get a really valuable multi-perspective experience. So
Options are good. It's okay.
yes,
I'm excited for you to have options because at the end of the
yes.
day, we want you to be happy, have a job, whichever field that is, hopefully get paid what you're worth and
Mhm.
and thrive in this world. So whether
Yes.
that's in museums or not, I think that's really important. So
Yes.
that's so
Yes.
funny.
I know, I always, like, chuckle when people say that, and they, like, are so sneaky about it. But, yeah, we just want you to be happy, and you wanna be happy too, right? So, digging into that what can "and" look like? So, the easiest option for this "and" is I am applying for museum jobs, and I am also applying for non-museum jobs once I've identified what are my transferable skills, where else could I go, what else could I do? You can just do both of those things at the same time. You don't have to fully break up with one or the other, right? Like you can date two people at the same time here. We won't tell. And then is there a way to make your current job better? We talked a lot about this earlier in the episode, but what are the things that once you know what is not feeling right, how do you advocate for yourself to make them better? How do you make things better where you're at? Can you keep your current role and look for other options in the meantime? Again, you can date multiple people at once. That's okay. We're not going to tell anybody. You can keep your options open.
Thinking it's like an episode of Love It or List It, where Edith
Yes.
like just popped into my
Yes.
brain right now.
Yes. I love that
So Love It
show.
or List It. We need to figure out the career version of this. But
Yes.
no, it just anyway, I was thinking of that.
Do
It's
they
like
make that show still?
sometimes I think so. I have not watched it in a bit, but I always think it's interesting when people are like, I think I'm actually just gonna stay in my house. And that happens, right? And that's okay. Like this is all
Yes.
self-discovery. Anyway, didn't want I keep interrupting, but I
No.
these fun thoughts that pop into my brain.
It's a perfect thought, Allie, because sometimes these people didn't know that they actually could love their house until they made some changes to it, right? You're not going to know if you can love your job until you can fix and tweak the things that are not working for you. That's an excellent point.
And I always advocate for people, even if you're not at the moment ready to, let's say, leave your job, always just look, just keep an eye on the job market, keep an eye on roles in and out of the
Mhm.
fields. Because when you do get that time, you'll be aware of what's out there. And sometimes you might be unexpectedly find something that comes across your desk, across your page, and you're like, actually, I am interested in that job because in my last role, I had something like that where I ended up pulling myself out of the race, but it was like the one time I found something that was actually would be enough for me to leave my current role. And I was like, you know what? I wasn't really looking, but I saw it and I was like, you know what? I'm going to go for it. I'm going to see. And then I realized, you know what? I think I still am. I still want to stick it out at my job. And that's
Mhm.
okay. Again, this is
Mhm.
all finding things out about yourself.
Yes, you don't know until you know, right? Like you have to give yourself those opportunities to try things on and to see like does this fit? Does this feel good? Cuz yeah, like you might go through the interview process in another organization and be like, "You know what? I don't want this. This is not, new is not always better, right? Like sometimes we just want to fix up what we're currently working with to make it what we want it to be."
Can you speak a little bit towards temporarily leaving the field? So it doesn't
Mhm.
always have to be a permanent change.
Right. Yes. And that's in that and too, Allie, of like, you don't have to leave forever. Once you leave, you might not want to go back. I will say that. I don't want to go back. But and that's a lot of people say, like, oh, well, I'm scared that if I leave, I'll never get back in. So at that point, it's about reverse engineering your reentry point. So, like, if you want to reenter as an ED or a director or something like that, what are the skills that you need at that level that you can gain somewhere else so that when you come back in, it makes a lot of sense? Can you join a board? Can you get development experience? Can you get managerial experience? There's lots of ways to keep one foot in the field and keep yourself up to date and current with things and keep your network current while also pursuing other career paths or whatever other things you're trying to look at with re-entry in mind, because you can go back in. There's plenty of cases. Also, I think we've all seen like people that are brought in at high levels that are not from the field, right? So what a Cinderella story would that be if you were in, you left, you gained all these skills, you became so amazing, and then even more amazing, I should say. And then you re-enter at a higher level because now you are bringing a really diverse perspective of having been in the field and out of the field and marrying those skill sets together.
Absolutely. And I think having a really good idea of like the skills that you have, going back to Elin stuff, plus understanding, okay, these are the roles that I'm going for. And I think Elin and I both are big advocates for this. And yeah, that some of the skills doesn't have to be in museums. It you can get those anywhere. And I'll add to another way that you can kind of stay involved in the fields. And I think Elin probably could add to this too, right? So let's say you made a decision to get a job outside the fields temporarily or permanently. You can still be on, there's a lot of like museum boards, even like professional museum organizations, right? Like there's conference committees, there's regular committees or, leadership positions within like museum organizations that are always
Mm-hmm.
looking for help,
Mm-hmm.
even volunteering at a museum. Like there's so many options to still have your foot in the door, even a toe, even a toe in to show a commitment. But again, you don't have to. You can go out and just focus on your skill building
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
become an even better version of yourself. And I love a mindset activity. This is another big part of the work that I do. And so I'm just going to like very briefly walk you through a scenario mapping exercise. So this is something you can pause and come back to with the recording. But again, this is just something to keep you thinking and figuring out what your next steps are. So if you are between three things, which some of you, I believe, are probably at that point. So whether it's path A, you're staying where you are, path B, finding a new museum job, or path C, pivoting outside museums. So you might not have all three of these different paths, but you probably at least have two. So each you want to ask yourself a couple questions, and here are just some to frame it out. So what are the best case outcomes? So if you, for example, stay where you are, what would have to change or what would be like the best outcome of you being in that role long term or just even a little bit longer? What are the worst case outcomes? So if you decided to pivot outside museums, maybe you realize you hate it and that might be the worst case outcome. But it could also be the best case. Like, hey, you know what? That's an opportunity. Maybe I do love it. Like Elin said, what are kind of the next steps to make each path possible? So don't have to be like, oh my gosh, like big plan. I think sometimes we like to think really big. It's just like, what's a next step? Just focus in, like, what's a next step I could take to make that path possible? Maybe it's networking. Maybe it's working with Elin to consider some options
Or Allie.
or me, just what's a easy next step to consider each pathway. And then for each one, what excites you the most and what scares you? I think being sometimes just vocalizing those things and putting them down can help just maybe remove some of the gravity of it or the enormity of this decision to be like, oh, okay, maybe the thing that scares you isn't so big at all. Maybe in your head you blew it up, but when you look at everything else, you're like, oh, actually, this is not so bad. I think the most important question that you can ask yourself, so even if you don't do this scenario mapping exercise of your different pathways, this question really needs to be the one that you ask yourself is, what would your ideal day at work actually look like? So not tied to any role or field, just ideal day. I would say look and feel like. For me, feelings are really important because, we, again, passion-based fields, I'm like, how do I feel in this environment? So what would your ideal day at work actually look and feel like? Just like sit with that for a second. Y Hopefully, this little scenario helped you, and we hope that you have a better understanding whether you need a new job, a new field, or simply a new boundary or a new mindset when you go into work. Any final thoughts, Elin, or as we sign out?
No, I think Just thanks for being here, everybody, and we hope you got something great out of this. We will put the questions in the show notes so that if you want to look at them and write them down or copy them so you can ask yourself those very important questions, we'll have them for you.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye. Thanks for tuning in to Curate Your Career. We hope today's episode gave you some ideas, encouragement, or at least a little bit of sanity for your museum career journey.
If you love what you heard, the best way to support us is to subscribe, leave a review, or share this episode with a fellow museum professional who might need it.
And don't forget, you can connect with us, send questions, or share your story at curateyourcareerpod@gmail.com or find us on Instagram at Curate Your Career Podcast. Don't forget to fill out our mailbag form and share your questions that might be featured on a future episode.
All right, now go take one small action toward the career you actually want. So don't just survive your museum job, curate it, one step at a time.